You heard Duco Sickinger say it. You can be as innovative as you want. In the end, you will have to sell. Sell the way buyers want to buy. That is the motto of Showpad. And Showpad is, and I quote, a sales enablement platform. It's not exactly clear to me what it is, so I'm not buying yet. But I do know that the Showpad guys have offices in Ghent, London, Chicago, Portland, and San Francisco. So they must be doing something right. Here are two of their founders, Pieterjan Bouten and Louis Jonckheere. Pieterjan and Louis. Hi. You prefer to be interviewed by me rather than give a presentation yourself, which is a very courageous decision. But
we're just lazy.
Your starting point is that many people who are selling things are actually boring their buyers.
Exactly.
Why would that be the case? No seller wants to bore his buyers.
That's true. That's why they buy Showpad. So, but to tell the story here, so if you look at the consumer, how the consumer buys today has changed. Like everybody knows that. The consumer buys from Amazon, they buy online, they want to have convenience. In the B2B world, where you sell from a company to a company, like if your buyer wants to buy something, they actually already know most of the information about the product. And when they meet a salesperson, that salesperson will very typically just repeat what is on the website. Like the buyer wants to learn something, wants to have insight on what's happening. And that's what we mean with boring the buyers today.
Then you made a sales enablement platform. To me, that sounds like a very boring name.
It's maybe a boring name, but it's an exciting industry.
Yeah. What is it?
What is it? Well, basically what we do is, first of all, we make sure that salespeople have the right content, the right information at the right time, so to easily present, share with customers or prospects. And then we combine that with training and coaching, so making sure they can be onboarded, trained, and coached, so they are well educated, understand the products, and can deliver a better buyer experience.
Sell the way buyers want to buy. How do I want to buy?
Yeah. So I think if you look at technology, I would say that the silver line where technology helps society or it helps people is that it makes things much more convenient. If you, for example, look at Amazon, and why Amazon is winning on a global scale is because they are the most convenient way to buy something. Why is Uber so successful? Because they're the most convenient way to get from A to B. The same thing with Airbnb. And the exact same thing is happening in the B2B world. So focus on that convenience. Make it easy for your customers to do business with you.
So, and your enablement platform arranges a whole lot of presentations, PowerPoints, whatever. Why can't I just put that on Google Drive and have the same for free?
I mean, Google Drive is just storage and collaboration, while Showpad also, selling the way buyers want to buy, also entails marketing and sales working together. So we allow marketers to create what we call buyer experiences, which basically means that they can create guided selling, navigation, presentation, really interactive and engaging ways of selling and engaging with buyers and prospects. And that's something you can do with the Google Drive.
So you know how buyers want to buy? Okay. Sell me something.
I think that's the wrong question. I think the question, I mean, and that's the problem with sales. Like salespeople still sell too much. They should guide their customers in their buying journey. It's not about what you think you want to sell to your customers, but it's about the problem they have and truly understanding that. And I think what fundamentally changed with technology is that for the first time, companies actually have data about their buyers. Like they understand more about them. So tell a story that is relevant and that resonates. Don't just give a presentation thinking you know what they want.
Who are your competitors?
Sorry, who are they?
Who are your competitors?
Oh, I mean, our competitors are, I would say, first of all, paper. A lot of companies still sell with paper, and there's still sales reps selling, going on the street with all the brochures and leaflets. But there's several competitors in the US, mainly US companies who do similar things. Seismic would be one of them, Highspot would be another one. Our space, or sales enablement, is a very new category because a lot of companies, if you talk to mid-market or enterprise companies, they've invested in CRM, so customer relationship management. They've invested in content management, SharePoint, Box, Drive. They've invested in marketing automation, but no company has invested actually in software that makes their sales team more relevant, more productive, able to add value before, during, and after a sales conversation. And that's exactly what we do. That's what sales enablement, or the category that we're creating, is about.
Does that integration go into numbers? Do you have a measurable result?
Of course. Companies who implement Showpad, I mean, first of all, see an increase of productivity. To give you an idea, today, on average, like 30 hours a month are spent just looking up information and finding the relevant presentation for your customer. So that's the first ROI, making your salespeople more productive. The second ROI is when you have that conversation, like, you don't sell. You try to understand the customer. You navigate based on what you think is important, based on the information he provides you. So being able to do more with the time you have and getting more selling time. That's basically what we do.
I listened very carefully to Duco Sicking. He said, if you have a USP, you should anchor it. You should be able to prove why your advantage is almost genetic, why a competitor cannot copy it. If I listen to you, you are saying we get rid of paper, we integrate all kinds of sources. Well, other people can do that as well.
Yes, but I think the difference with Showpad is that we're building, so on one side there's the content side of things, so marketing uses Showpad to store content, get it in the hands of the reps, and we then have information how salespeople are trained and coached and how they evolve. And then we have all of the information of the engagement, so if you share something with a customer, do they open it, do they share it, do they reshare it? That data combined with, because we integrate with CRM systems, we integrate with marketing automation systems, so we have the data from the customers, we have the data from the usage.
Why can't a competitor do the same thing?
Sorry, and why?
Why can't a competitor do the same thing?
Louis, go ahead.
In theory, everybody can do the same thing, right? I think that's the reason why Showpad raises a lot of money. That's why we are super aggressive in building out engineering teams. That's why we are super aggressive with opening offices across the world, because at a sudden moment it's about the speed, it's about gaining market share as quickly as possible. And then it becomes really hard for somebody to catch up with you.
That is an interesting point, because you do have an aggressive growth. Ghent, London, Chicago, San Francisco. Why these cities?
So I'll answer the first part and I'll give it over to PG. I think the reason why Ghent should be very obvious, because it's Ghent. But just kidding, this is where PG and I studied, where we hired our first people, and Ghent is actually an amazing place to hire people, a lot of great engineers, a lot of sales and marketing talent. So that's where it started.
And then obviously, Showpad, we're in a globalized world, and for us the US is the biggest market, so that's also the reason why we've opened up an office in the US, started scaling and growing the company there. And we go where the customers are, where the market is, and also where there's also a lot of talent, obviously.
But I think that's interesting, because you have a very high growth, rather quickly. And at this conference, we are still talking about the problem that many startup companies have to become really upscale, to become really big, to become really international. So somehow you managed. That's the very least we can say. Why was it possible for you to do that, even without being on a stock exchange, for instance?
I mean, I think everything starts with, there are a few things. Everything starts with a vision and an ambition. I think, like, we as Belgians are phenomenally good in making a product. Like, we're very good product developers, but when we ask our startups about their vision, how they see the world in 5, 6, 7 years, then we always, like, it's hard for us to tell that story and to really say we want to be the next Salesforce. If you want to build a global company, you have to start with saying you're going to be the #1 in your space. So I think that mindset, that's where it all starts. PG and I have spent years in the States over the last 8 years, and that's what you learn there. Like, think big, have a bold mission, go for it, and just talk about it.
Thinking big, that's definitely super important.
Is it just a mentality problem? Because you hear people say it's also a problem of finding money, of finding finance to upscale internationally.
I don't agree that it's a problem of money. Showpad has, I think any good product with a good team, with the right ambition, will always find money. Wherever you're located, whether it be in Ghent, in Antwerp, or in any city in Belgium, it's it's the mindset, it's going and really combining being super aggressive, but also then attaining your goals, and when you miss them for some reason, be very flexible in adjusting your product, adjusting to your market. And I think the limiting factor here in our country is, I would say, is mainly in this economic boom, it is the talent. There's a lot of talent, but there's also a lot of companies wanting to attract that talent. And I think that's mainly the biggest reason why we definitely find invest more in education, make sure we attract. At Showpad, there's 23 nationalities working in our Ghent office. So we not always find the talent here, but we attract them from Morocco, the Philippines, from anywhere we can find them.
So the main problem is a mentality problem, that's what I hear you say.
Yep.
What can we do about that? Can the government do anything about that?
I mean, I think first of all, like, the government can always facilitate. Let us stay with that. But I think what a society needs are examples, like successful entrepreneurs who have done it. For example, look at the biotech scene in Ghent. Like, that's a perfect example of how you can build something really amazing in a Flemish region. And that's because you have a vision around like developing the right talent. They opened up academical courses to enable those people. Like they've invested in the network, they've invested in the real estate. And I think like we have to be very picky and smart about which investments we want to do. Where do we want to be good at in this region? Because not every region in the world can or will be Silicon Valley. We have to pick our battles.
If you ask a question, you can also answer it.
Yeah.
So what should we be good at?
I mean, I think if you look at our industry, software development, there are a ton of amazing companies out there in Belgium who are building massive enterprise software companies. If you look, for example, at a Colibra, if you look at a team leader, Oda Insights, those are really fast-growing companies with a lot of ambition, with a lot of money behind them. Like, let's leverage those companies.
I mean, the nice thing in B2B software is you asked, sell me something. But the great thing with B2B software is there's businesses out there, and you can ask them the question, what is your biggest challenge? To a marketer, to a salesperson, learn from that, and Belgium definitely has some good B2B software startups and companies. And
You obviously made it on the American market, which is a very big one.
I wouldn't say we made it on the American market. It's still
very
very
least
tiny.
selective
But
there,
Yes.
but it's all English. So the world means a lot of other languages.
Yep.
And very often for Flemish companies, it's also difficult to make the next move, to go to Asia, to go whatever.
Yep.
For you, that next step is still not taken.
next step would be Asia, for sure.
But like, I would never recommend to any startup out there to start with Asia, the US, and Europe, just because you have to focus on one market.
Yeah.
Like, start with Europe, and if you then nailed it in a few countries and you see enough traction, then go to the US. Again, depending if your customers are there.
Yeah.
So like, focus on the right verticals, on the right industries, markets is super important.
And Showpad is thinking about going to Asia.
Yes, the funny thing is we've been already thinking about it for 2 or 3 years. There's a bunch of articles already. Next year they'll go to Asia, next year. And right now we're still very much focused on Europe and US. That's our main market, but for sure next year we'll be in Asia. So,
No, but it does answer a very general question. You're selling, which means there are cultural differences,
Yep.
which means that languages matter.
Yep.
As a Flemish company, how do you overcome that?
I mean, I think that's one of the main advantages we have as a Flemish company. If I'm an American citizen, then I always have the American culture wherever I live. Like, if I'm a Belgian, I will adapt myself to the local environment. And that's also something that translates into the product. Like, we're very good in localization. We have customers using Showpad in Japan, in China, in Germany, in France. So like, it is in our DNA, and thinking global is something you very rarely find outside Europe. Like Asian companies focus on Asia, US companies only start to think about Europe once they're really big.
So where do you want to be in 5 years?
oh, that's a good question. I mean, we want to create optionality for ourselves and, as a company, and we call it so. And that optionality comes from just making sure we keep growing the way we grow. And so, in 5 years, Showpad should be way over 100 million in recurring revenue. Should be a world leader in sales enablement, and everybody should know what it means. And I think Louis and myself, we in 5 years, the most important thing for us is we just want to have a lot of fun doing what we're doing and build a great company to work for, and make sure that we attract a great team, have a lot of fun, grow people, grow careers, and help businesses with their challenges. And that's what we want to do.
I still think sales enablement is a boring name.
All right.
Pieterjan, Bouten, Louis Jonckheere, thank you very much.
Thank you.